Ooh, I think I just ripped them in half. Anyway, can't live. I'm so glad you could come out and see everything that's going on in the garden. Here in Texas, we have really year-round gardening. Can get cut off by a hard freeze in the winter, but otherwise, once you start in the spring, you go till now. We're in July, and a lot of the spring summer stuff is winding down, and we're getting ready to plant for the fall next month. A fancy gate here. Uncle Sam helped me build that. So, Uncle Sam. All right, so here's the peppers that aren't real great, but I'll let them go a little while longer. Over here, the first thing I want to show you is the okra, which has done really well today. Now it hasn't had the sun, bright sun on it, so the blooms aren't open. They're beautiful. But the plants are at this point developed to where they got to be picked every day, or the pods get too big. They become seed pods. So that's one that's good. And that one I think I'll leave till tomorrow. I'll show you. Here's a bloom that opened and then closed, and there you just, did you get that? It fell off the little tiny okra that's going to grow now. And here's one that already fell, and we take those off because they get all moldy and make the we don't want to culture stuff. I think I'll leave that guy till tomorrow. A lot of times it's girth over length, but since I am picking every day, I can take more chances there. Now on Saturday I pick, and I don't pick on Sunday, and that's when I rest. So so I would have probably picked that one because by Monday it would be too big. Up. I try not to step in these beds, but you got to get to what you're doing. So you kind of get the idea on the okra. I won't pick them all right now. There's still some more here. You can see just, and now the growth centers on the plants are all up high, which is nice. They are really nice and firm. And there's still a few they grew in to here. A decent. You want to come around here where you can see underneath, because you have to look thoroughly, otherwise in a couple of days they'll get too big to use. There's one of those, but see, there's a growth center, but just tiny yet. There's another one, and of course when the plant starts out they're all lower. But there's one of those that's gotten all fuzzy. Ugh. See, that's one of those blooms. They'll just completely be eaten up with mold if you leave them, because they're just such a good medium for them. So underneath the okra you can see there's watermelons. They're kind of at the end. These are the watermelon vines, and you have to move the fruit. We've had such a wet July, so that these are the little personal sugar babies, so that they don't rot underneath. So that's been a continual chore, just to have that harvest. And I wanted to show you the little, I started calling it a pigtail, but this one doesn't have one. We'll go find one. I'm pretty sure there's one on the other side. But that's one way that I learned you can tell when they're ripe or almost ripe. Some people talk about the field patch, which is a discoloration underneath. That one doesn't have. And then they have this little tendril where they join the stem, the main stem, and when it dries up, that's an indication that it might be ripe. Now I found the smaller ones aren't really ripe yet, so I'm trying to leave them, but the bigger ones that were at risk of rotting have been delicious. So let me show you these eggplant. I grew these for somebody who asked for them, and these are Homsey variety. They've produced really well. As you can see, this is 2 plants, but I wasn't sure about this turning yellow, and I found some information. I have another plant over there. I'll show you where they're purple. See, you can see here they were purple before, purple striated. Said, well, they might be getting too ripe. You don't want them to get mushy, but they're not mushy. So anyway, I plan to harvest those and deliver them to the person who wants them. He makes eggplant parmesan and freezes it by his recipe. So you want to see how I will cut this. It's not rocket science. You just make a clean cut, and there it is. This is a smaller eggplant in general. Like there's one forming. You can see the purple. It's so pretty. And I want to get these bushes out of here because, as you can see, this bed is put to bed, and we will look at the cat. Did you get her coming over the fence? We will go down to the other end here, and I'll show you what's under here. It took some doing, but we got this bed cleaned out. We're in what was a hay field here, so we have this coastal that was actually planted here that keeps wanting to take over, and we cleaned it out pretty well. It'll keep trying to come back, but this is my dirt I've built in these beds over the years, and I keep adding stuff to it, of course, because every plant takes out nutrients. So I've got sources for compost, and I buy soil amendments and mix it all together and go down. I kind of think of it like fairy dust, but I don't believe in fairies. Anyway, it's fun, and it makes the plants grow. Over here you can see the tomatoes. They're winding down. Obviously, they had so much rain in July that most of them split like this, and then they rot. And I take them in the house, and when they're as ripe as this one, I can cut those bad parts off and still get 2/3 or more of the fruit to eat. But it's not something I can sell, which I do sell some of this produce to people in the community, help them stay healthy and help me keep doing it. And there are quite a few people who really love these tomatoes. These are Celebrity, a hybrid variety. I try to raise mostly open pollinated or heirloom crops so I can save the seed. There's one tomato down on the end that's one of my favorite, Cherokee Purple. It's not actually purple, but it's a deep red, meaty tomato. Best flavor ever. And otherwise, I grow these. Now, what we're looking for right now is, look over there. Here's evidence that a tobacco hornworm has been on this plant. They just strip the tenderest branches on the ends. I found one yesterday on the other end, big old fatty, because overnight, and they're the same color as the plant because that's what they're full of, so it's hard to see them. But all of these have evidence of it, and when they hatch out, there tends to be more than one. If you don't find them, now they are susceptible to BT, which is Bacillus thuringiensis. Anyway, comes in a powder or a spray, and when you put it on, it does tend to get rid of them. I've seen them. We saw one the other day where it had just attached and then just dried up, like whatever the organism that's in the BT does to the caterpillar, it was dead. So you see, we have a lot of garden spiders. We call them the sentinels, and they get pretty big, and then they lay their eggs somewhere, and they're back next year. They get especially. She was on the other side, and then she came around here. I'm over here. You want to see her her yellow body? It's really beautiful. And they don't bother me, even when I reach in there and pick tomatoes. But anyway, all of these will be coming out very soon. All of this will be, there's a spider web, will be undone and bed cleaned up for something new in the fall garden plan, which will get rolling in the next couple of months. Yeah, look, here's a lot of it. I bet we could find one here. There he is. See him? Right there. Camouflaged. You want me to pick him and stomp on him? They try to bite you. Ooh, I think I just ripped him in half. Anyway, can't live in the garden, but wow, look at all that. I'm not aggressively treating for this anymore because, as you can see, these plants are pretty much done. We just left them for now so you could see them. This is kind of the tail end of the spring summer. Of course, they were magnificent like this all over in their prime. So we're looking for a sucker, and a sucker is a little branch that grows up like this, where you've got your normal branch, you've got your normal stem, and you've got your normal branch, and then just in the crotch there, where those two meet, or is this one the sucker? Yes, this one's the sucker. And it's gonna look a little smaller. Anyway, you cut that. Now, ideally they'd be a little thicker, but you get the idea. And you can root that to start the plants for the next season. And we can grow tomatoes here through the winter if we can protect them from the frost. And of course, they're even more valuable, if you will, because there's less. So down here, I've got some that I started last week. And you can see that some of them have obviously rooted. I put rooting hormone on them and put them in a mix that's got quite a bit of vermiculite to support the moisture. And I think I actually had them in a glass of water for a couple of days first. So here we've got a couple that didn't make it, and you can see no roots. You can see by the, dead leaves, no roots there. Here's another one. But the rest of them, so I got 5, and that's good. And then I'll pot them up into, containers and put them in either on the side of the house where it gets morning sun or in the little greenhouse. It tends to get too hot in there, even though it's all opened up. I'll show you that later. So here's the other eggplants here, which, as I said, look more like I expected them to look. There's 2 on this bush, so I'll pick those and get them to my brother. What's next? The squash, I think. Now squash is still doing real well. Oh, here, I was going to show you. These potatoes came out of this bed that we have covered up, and when I pulled them, I took the smallest ones and put them in here for seed potatoes for next time. They've been in relative dark, but I'm going to put them in more dark because they're starting to sprout, and see how long they'll last. Because that's one of my objectives, is to grow things that would feed me through the winter if it had to. If I haven't, I don't think I said it, but the main goal of this is to grow my own food. So I have to start to diversify to grow things that are gonna keep. I don't have a root cellar at this point. Of course, that would be important in that whole vision. So here's my onions that I did buy starch for these, but they are really nice and firm, and they grew to a decent size. When the tops start dying, then you harvest the onions, and of course they're pretty easy to just pull up because I keep these beds. We don't walk in them, so they're loose for the most part. And I'll cut all these tops off and then put these in a dark place in the house. That's the best I can do, but it does seem to keep most of them for a long time. And same thing with the potatoes. So over here we have several types of squash. The first section is the yellow squash, which is my favorite. And let's see what's growing. You're going to come over here and look down here. We've had really good bees this year, which more of the squash developed that way. But then with all the rain in July, we've got some rot. Like right here, you can see a growth center. We've got a bunch of blooms and little squash that have started after the bloom fell off. But then here's one that's rotten on the end. So I'll go ahead and pluck that one off before it takes any more resources from the plant. And these are also winding down. I thought that one was going to be one I could show you growing on the plant, but I don't even know if there is one. Let's go around here. You can see these plants get pretty beefy, and they're starting to get some mold on the leaves, and you can spray it with stuff that'll help slow that down, but I'm ready for this all to be done, so I'm not going to worry about it. And so far the plants are still producing. At some point they may just stop. We got a number of blooms here, but no fruit really. Did you find one? That's weird. Not a single yellow squash. All right. Like I said, the season's winding down. You don't know what is going to be there or not. Then we get into the zucchini, these big leaves here, and they're fixing to come out because I don't really sell a lot of zucchini. I don't like it that much myself, but you can see the plants are just taking over. I'm looking. Sometimes there'll be one on the underneath that you miss, then it gets real big. But I've learned to make a dish that people seem to like, called calabacitas, where you use a big zucchini and chop it up with onion and tomato and seasonings and bacon, and it's good. Oh, corn. You also put corn in there. It's really good. So yeah, I do like to cook the stuff that I grow, most of it. And you'll see gardening guides that say when you're planting your garden, which of course is the first step. I'll show you the plan for the fall garden another time when you're here. But don't grow things you're going to use. Grow things you like, And then there's even more excitement when the seeds come up and you see things grow. Now here's a zucchini, a couple of them forming after the flowers have been there and the bees have done their work. And if they make it past the rot, they'll grow. Now we're in the winter squash, it's called. This year I just planted acorn squash, because if you plant more than one variety, they tend to cross, and then you got something weird. And like there was an orange one there that I think was an acorn and a yellow maybe, but this is all acorn squash, another crop that I'm hoping I'll be able to. Did you get this? Did you see this? See, this is a mature acorn squash, which you normally don't harvest them till the vines start drying up. And it's got some sun scald on it, so we'll want to cover it up, give it an umbrella there that might help. Anyway, this is another thing I've had to go in here and make sure they're not rotting on the underside. And when they are, then like this has a field patch on it, then I have to move the straw a little bit to not have the stuff that's growing there and the moisture start to eat into the rind of the squash. There's another nice big one. And so when I cut those, there's a couple right there. What I did in the past is I wrapped them in newspaper and put them in a milk crate in the dark in my house. And they lasted very well, but most of them turned completely orange. So I'll show you that later if it happens this time. Here's another one that's got some sun scald. I might have to harvest that one. It's got kind of a mushy place. We don't want these to go bad because they are so delicious. Acorn squash, it's one of my favorites, whether you just cut it in half and you can put it upside down and steam it in the microwave if you want, or in a pot. And then, of course, you can make soup out of it that a lot of people really like. You can make it a little bit spicy, very like comfort food in the winter. So, acorn squash. Here's a couple that are still just forming, and it looks like this vine is dying, so I don't know if this one's gonna make. I cut into one last night that wasn't mature. Yeah, that one looks like it's toast. And it wasn't as good as the ones that where the seeds are fully formed. And yeah, they're all getting a little sun scald there. See that one? All right, that's enough of that. Oh, here's one that kind of went into the zucchini. Next year, I'm only going to plant one zucchini plant. This is 4, because that's plenty for those who like it. But you got to really get down in here and look, because they'll hide down in there, and then you won't even see them until this big zucchini butt emerges from the understory. Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing any bigger ones for you to see. But here's some more little bitty forming ones, and you can see that when they don't get attacked by the organisms, you got a bunch. See those three right together? No. All right. So over here is some basil, which is so easy to grow. Smells so good. One thing you want to do with herbs when you can is just pick a leaf and crush it and get some aromatherapy. They'll go ahead and these flower tops will make spiky flowers, and then the plant itself will decline. See, there's one. And I picked them off, but then they come back double or triple, the flower tops. I think they're purple. And the plant will decline because then it's putting its energy into seed production, and like the life cycle is about to be over. And then if you leave it, of course, then you'll have the seeds, which are tiny. And that's where these came from. Just threw some seeds out here. This was a lettuce plant that I let go to seed, but I cut the top yesterday because it was needing to be done. This is parsley, flat leaf parsley, which again is very easy to grow as long as it's cool enough. And then it starts to bolt, which is sending up its flower stalk in the middle. And then I've already harvested some of this and dried it. I just put it in a stainless steel bowl in a refrigerator outside, and it desiccates, it dehydrates, and then I put it in a bag and use it for stews and stuff in the winter. These are jalapenos, which for some reason they're not very hot. So I grew that one too. Oh, there's a red one on there. When peppers are red, they're supposed to have the most vitamin C, and that's one of the main reasons to grow peppers. Ripple, my cat. All right, so over here I've got a serrano. Let's go down the road by the melons, see if I need to check anybody. I've got these up here. And see, there's the pigtail for that one. Dried up, but I'm gonna maybe leave that one another day. Yeah, see, here's one where the pigtails aren't dried up. They're starting to, but they're not yet. And then there's one down here that grew in the block. And when I realized it was too tight to get it out. So I had to just leave it. And it'll just rot there, I guess. Because it was down in there when it formed. So here's the serranos. Real pretty plant, blooms. But they're also not very hot. So I gotta find out what my problem is with peppers, because I like a little hot, and most people that eat them also want it. I mean, it's varying degrees. There's that whole Schofield, is that what it's called, chart of the hotness of peppers relative to one another. So anyway, they're pretty, and they do add some jazz to your scrambled eggs or whatever. Should we pull up the zucchini? All right. We'll let it live another day and see if those little ones form. But I think if they get nipped by mold. Now, one thing I forgot to tell you about the okra is we always take the dead growth off of it. It can be mulch, but it's just a place where, stuff grows. And we want these okra to keep going as long as possible. They will continue to bear until they get frozen in a lot of cases, or I want them out of the bed. Now here's one that got too big, so it's more like a seed pod now, because it gets so fibrous you really don't want to eat it. A lot of them are much longer before they get to that point, but I grow them from the seed I save, so that's a crop too. In this garden, I use organic methods, meaning no pesticides, herbicides, poisons. I've got a soup I make out of manure tea for fire ants, for example, because I don't want those things in my body, and I don't want to be selling produce to people that has not been raised that way. That's just one of those ethics that I have. And also just working out here. There's a saying that cutting wood warms you twice, when you cut it and when you burn it. Well, growing vegetables enhances your health, which is too long, twice, when you are outside in the beautiful elements, the weather, whatever it may be. And then, of course, when you take it in the house and you eat it. So, peace be with you. Grow happy.